if you buy a baseball team, you can be pretty damn sure that in 50 years from now, baseball is going to be pretty much the same game, and people are still going to want to play it because it's baseball. It's just it's a classic sport. It is what it is. But games tend to have that. That's what I always found so crazy when they were able to sell these teams for that much, is because games generally have a life cycle. You're right. Unless you hit one of the crazy lucky ones like a League of Legends or a Dota. But even I would say Counter-Strike has almost hit a bit of a life cycle issue at the stage where it's at now. But yeah, is that unless you're doing stuff like what Call of Duty does, which is to, number one, dominate the genre by being head and shoulders above everyone else, and then manage to keep on pushing out a new one every single year, so it is entirely fresh. It's really hard to kind of maintain your player base, and through that, maintain an interest in the esports for that game. But it's so I'm curious. 2020 hindsight. Do you reckon do the Overwatch League again, or would you probably just more stick to Call of Duty League?
If it was now, when I didn't have, and I have, NRG, which is in the last year become amazing, and we have Huntsman, I would probably not do it. Not to make headlines, but only because there's a lot of money to be spent now in two places at the same time, Call of Duty and Overwatch, right? And they're both going through growing pains, and they're both trying to figure it out. And if I had to bet on something, because I have this incredibly unique position where we are, dominant skin sales, dominant attendance, dominant viewership. We have Hector, we have Scump, there's a history, and the game is fresh. And it's in the United States, at least, it's a cultural phenomenon. Like I can tell you, most of the players on the Kings, they call up, they're like, hey, you think I can get in like a Warzone thing with Formal and Scump like every day? Because they all play it. They're not calling up mostly and saying, can I play Overwatch with, Sinatra? And we've seen, with the game, we're waiting. It's a bet right now. It's a bet to figure out the right model, figure out how to survive in this pandemic without events. Because actually, the events for Overwatch sold really well, and they were fun. If you saw the few that they did, there was a good time, right? People liked it. We sold 4,000 tickets for two events pretty quickly. And so there's a business there. There's a fan base there. Was it worth 20 million right away? I don't know. I think that was probably a bit piggish. Same with Call of Duty, which was more. But I don't like betting and waiting. If you're asking me, right? I'm going to bet that this game comes back to where it was. I don't know. That's a weird bet.
Yeah,
I love the game. I love it.
Yeah, I love Overwatch. I still go back and I play it every few weeks.
It's a great esport too.
Yeah, and Blizzard's a great developer. I just think that I think Blizzard needs to fundamentally like revisit some things in their like core ethos about where they exist in this like the games industry of 2020. I think that what they did in the 2000s, 2010, coming up to pretty much like when Overwatch got released, that is why they are so well respected and such a force in the gaming industry today, which is they would refine, put out the most polished, beautiful products in the world. And that was absolutely what made them gorgeous. So stand out. 100%. But I think that these days, just, once again, everyone's got a bit of game ADHD, they need they're fresh. And I think that you really need to sometimes, perfection isn't everything. And I think if you need to lop off 10% of your quality to then triple your output in terms of what you can really get into the game, getting more content in there, keeping it more engaging, I think that that's a trade-off that I think Blizzard is really struggling to get to, but I also think it's one that will ultimately make Overwatch and through that the Overwatch League way more successful.